Hello, I'm Paul Pluta and welcome to the Archie Luxury channel. And today I'd like to invite you to like, subscribe and tell your friends about my channel. And today what I want to talk about, selling different Rolexes. And I'm actually been helping a couple of fans of the channel in Australia sell a few watches. And these are sort of modern sports Rolex. And I've had some success. I've been helping a few friends sell these. And I want to talk about it on the channel. And I want to talk about the different buyers who are interested in these pieces. Now, the interesting thing is I started off, I had a friend of mine who wanted to sell a deep sea. That's the big seagoing monster, the 44mm carry-on from the Sea Dweller. This was a ceramic, fairly new model, box papers, minty sort of piece. And I gotta be honest with you, I actually found that a little hard to sell. We priced it fairly right. It sold around the 10,000 Aussie dollar mark, which I thought was okay for a really nice box papers example. The piece itself there, I put it out there to market. A lot of lowballers coming in, bargain shoppers came out. I eventually, after a while, I was about to give up, and I had a punter who's a huge fan of the channel who decided, yep, he'll take it. So he put $1,000 deposit down, and he took a little bit longer to pay the rest than I would have thought, but all's good that ends well. A bird in the hand is two in the bush. And that went to an entrepreneur. He's an internet entrepreneur who was actually buying it for his dad. And I believe his story. I don't see why he would bullshit about that. He's a nice young guy, Asian young guy, high achiever, very polite and nice, and no nonsense. He gave me a little tip, and he was a lovely, really nice guy. The next piece that I offloaded was a Rolex Submariner no date. And this piece here, from memory, it went for around about the 8,000 Aussie dollar mark. And it went to a guy. This was a guy in Melbourne. I actually flew to Melbourne to deliver it to him. And he actually paid my ticket cost, which was good. And I made a bit of a holiday out of it. I mean, look, I didn't make a lot of money on this deal here. I was selling it for a friend. But you know, it was nice to go down to Melbourne. I saw the sucker horn, and I also got to sample that beautiful Mercedes SL65 AMG. So that was a really great trip. He was a nice guy. He had actually owned that watch before, but he'd sold it, so he's a bit of a flipper, and he was buying it on the pre-owned market, so he was buying quite well. He was just a hard-working Aussie, an Aussie with I think he was a European background. You know, he's like a bit like me. You'd call that a wog, because my ancestry is Eastern European. His ancestry, I think, were Greek or it was Macedonian, I think, Macedonian. Anyhow, lovely guy, really top bloke, polite, courteous, really nice guy, hard working. He'd been doing 2 or 3 jobs, working his ringer off to get ahead a bit. And I gotta hand it to him. It's always nice to see someone like that. You'd never ever rip anyone off like that. He's just a cool, just a really nice guy, and it really makes you happy that it's gone to someone who's so cool. Then the next piece was actually, I was selling this for another friend. This is a friend of mine in Sydney. He's just realigning his collection. He's selling a few, and he's actually buying. He's not desperate for money. He's selling a few and buying a few. So just you know, recalibrating the collection. And the first piece I sold for him was a Hulk. I sold his Hulk, and we marked it slightly under dealer, and it went. I think it went for just under 12,000 Australian, 11.9 I think, and it went to a really nice guy. He's he's a small businessman. He runs a coffee shop, and hard-working. Always wanted a Hulk. He had a few Rolexes already. Always wanted a Hulk, and yes, that sold for over retail, but you can't get the Hulks in Australia. Very hard to get. So he paid a small premium. The guy who I was helping sell it for, he'd already paid a premium anyhow to get it. So he didn't make any money, but he got his money back. And it went to an entrepreneur, a small businessman who runs a coffee shop in Sydney. Huge rents, very, very aggressive business. But the guy's really salt of the earth, lovely guy, nice guy. And then the last sale that we had was actually a black dial Explorer 2. Explorer 2 black dial. That's the same as my Polar, except with a black dial. No holes case, solid end-link bracelet. It was one of the last. It was a little bit later than mine, because mine I think is a 2004, 2003, 2004, whereas this one was the last of the series. It may have the 3186 movement, but it also may have the 3185 movement. We weren't exactly sure, and the seller who owns the watch didn't want to open it. He just said, look, it's an honest watch. I've got receipts, I bought it, and I don't really want to muck around checking movements and stuff like that. I don't want trouble with the watch. Fair enough. So that one there sold. It sold to a really nice guy who was turning 60. He worked for one of the major banks. Really nice guy. You know, he's your middle class sort of guy who, he said when he turned 60, he wanted to get a watch he really wanted, which was he actually wanted a Polar Explorer 2, a white dial one. But he said, look, I would, beggars can't be choosers. He really wanted the 40 mil. This is the thing. He knew exactly what he wanted. He didn't want the new 42 mil. He wanted the 40 mil, which is, I can understand that. It's a nice size. He knew exactly what he wanted, and that sold to him for about 7,000. I think it was 7.3. So I think it was a fair deal for the watch was amazing condition. You wouldn't get a better. Absolute mint. Absolutely, you know, it'd been worn half a dozen times. Absolute stunner of a piece. And you know, he was another very, very nice guy. Really, really lovely, salt of the earth sort of guy. No qualms whatsoever. And you know, the interesting thing is all these buyers so far have been really nice punters. The reason I'm telling this story is I listed yesterday a Rolex Yachtmaster 2, a steel Yachtmaster 2, and my God, I can't believe the reaction. And I gotta be polite how I phrase this. But it's a certain, how would I put this in Sydney? I'm not being racist, because I'm not racist. I despise every race equally as much. But it's certain ethnic groups which are not kind of respected, let's just say that, who are very interested in this watch. And they're absolute assholes. I only listed the Yachtmaster 2 yesterday. I've priced it at 17,500 Aussie dollars, which for the Australian market is a pretty good price. It's cheaper than any other dealer. There's no stock of the Yachtmaster 2 in Australia. and I've got some really rude low ballers. And I got to tell you, that's a very interesting watch. It's that sort of demographic is nasty punter. Very, very nasty, low rent punter. And it's very interesting. All the other Rolexes have gone to really cool, nice people, whereas the Yachtmaster punter, he seems to be a little bit of an asshole. Well, very much an asshole. He's the sort of guy who would drive an AMG Mercedes, a new AMG, newish AMG Mercedes. The sort of guy who would drive an Audi R8, a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, just smart ass. Got to stick up his ass, sort of. I don't want to mention the ethnic group because, you know, that's just not how we do things. But believe you me, it's that punter. The punter seems to. The only time I've seen anything so firm as that was when I was selling my solid gold subby, the Submariner, because I remember it attracted the attention of Crooks and Conman, one of the building companies on the Gold Coast. Actually, they used to build high-rises, went bankrupt. They're still in bankruptcy. And sure enough, one of the family key directors ringing me, asking me if I could do a deal on my gold sub. I said, don't you feel guilty that you haven't paid your creditors? I mean, don't you feel bad? Shouldn't that money be used to help those poor subcontractors who you ripped off? But that's the kind of punter it is. It's nasty punter. And it's very interesting. Different watches have a different demographic. The punter who buys a Rolex, certain models, can be different to, say, somebody who buys a Patek. And I've got to say, whenever I've sold a few Patek watches. I've owned probably, you know, over the years, I've probably had 10, including ladies. That's including ladies' Pateks. And they generally tend to be, you know, older punter. They tend to be conservative. They're generally nicer people. Whereas Yachtmaster 2 buyers, they're absolute pricks. Solid gold sub, crooked, shifty businessmen, crooked, shifty company directors. That's the sort of people who buy the gold sub. With the Patek Philippe, I remember the last sale I sold a World Time, a real estate guy, entrepreneur in Auckland. Oh, he was a Japanese guy, absolutely 100% one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. Polite, well-mannered, took me out, gave me an extra tip, just so damn cool. Very, very cool indeed. And I got to tell you, it's nice dealing with good people. That's one thing I must say. It's much nicer dealing with good people as opposed to jerks. I don't like dealing with jerks. And yeah, that's the way I kind of feel. But it's interesting. Different watches attract different punters. And tell me what you think. Put some comments below. What do you think? Different watches attracting different type of buyer. Very interesting. I'm Paul Pluta. This is the Archie Luxury channel. Please, guys, don't forget, like, subscribe, and tell your friends. And also, guys, remember, I depend on your support to keep me full-time. You could sponsor me on Patreon. You could sponsor me on doing a paid review. I do paid reviews on my other channel, the Paul Pluta channel. This all helps me stay full-time, because without your support, I really couldn't do this full-time. So, guys, thank you. Tell me what you guys think of that.